Tipsy Thursday, the one night of the week where I get to enjoy a drink on set while we tackle the big stories. And tonight, I've got a red wine because it's just too cold for a chilled white wine. They're calling the weather going around at the moment a monster weather event. I read that on the Courier Mail today. Now, if you'd like to have a say on the topics we're discussing tonight, leave your thoughts in the comment section of the YouTube video at youtube.com/@McKnight tonight. And Beck, I saw your comments in the live stream chat right after we just come off air, and thank you for sharing. Beck said she doesn't always, or actually doesn't often agree with me, but she likes watching McKnight Tonight anyway. So thank you, and you are allowed to express your disagreement with me. I don't mind at all. In fact, I love the debate, and it helps me form my views. And that's part of this great community we are creating here on YouTube. So everyone, go to YouTube, share your thoughts. Don't be afraid to put me in my place. There's plenty of people that aren't afraid to put me in my place anyway. All right, coming up, a former Philippines basketball coach sparks outrage with claims Australian athletes have a so-called genetic advantage over Asians. Should men pay on a first date? The views of younger adults might surprise you. And 7 News weather presenter Tony Auden will join us after that amazing report where he presented the weather on a ride upside down. It was just amazing. All that and plenty more, so settle in. It's Thursday night, the wine is poured, and McKnight Tonight starts right now. So let's get into our first hot topic. And a storm has erupted in the basketball world after a former national coach made a very controversial claim. Yang Guo, the former manager of the Philippines men's team, says Australia and New Zealand shouldn't even be competing in the same zone as Asian nations. Why? Because he claims our players have a natural advantage in genetics. Guo made the comments in the Philippine Star after his side was knocked out of the Asia Cup by the Boomers, who went on to beat China in a nail-biting final. So his argument is that it's tough for the Philippines to compete with teams like Japan, Korea, Iran, and Lebanon, let alone Australia and New Zealand. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we are now taught that we can't have a look at races by their genetics because it's seen as racist. But this coach is saying, look at the Australians, they're bigger, I guess more muscles, they're more athletic than his team in the Philippines. Some may call that a stereotype. But maybe stereotypes exist for a reason. It is okay to understand that our races are different. We're not all the same. You know, traditionally, and this may have changed over the years, but black people, American black people, were known for their athleticism on track and field, but not in swimming. And so it is interesting to think that he may have a point saying Australia is just too big and powerful for this league. So maybe that's something to be considered when you're putting people up against each other and coming up with these leagues. I don't know, and I really don't know, because there's no scientific basis for his claim. He's making an observation. I think he was on a panel show. He's not taking into consideration talent, training, resources. These systems, they all contribute to possibly play a much bigger role than genetics. And get this, ironically, even though he admits later in the same interview that the Philippines need to keep playing top sides like Australia and New Zealand if they want to improve. So there is that too, because if you're competing against a tougher nation, you will rise. You may not win, but your skills get better because you're trying to compete. Whereas if you're just competing with the same level, you may not go as far, push as hard as if you were competing, in this case, with Australians. But he faced a lot of backlash and controversy over making these comments. But I don't think they're a big deal. He has literally just looked and said, they're bigger. It's hard to compete. I don't think that's racist. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. I would really like to hear your thoughts on this one, because am I just missing something? Maybe I am. You know, I know people might have an issue with me using the term black in that editorial I just did, But I don't see that as a racist term. The N word is obviously a racist term because it was a derogative term shown to black people. And yes, we can use terms like African American, but I genuinely don't think black is a racist term, because if you say that calling someone black is a racist term, you're making a judgment that they are lesser than you. And I just don't think that's the case. You can call me white, but the black community call themselves black. So it might have jarred with a few people, I don't know, but I genuinely don't see it as an issue. But again, let me know. Leave your comment in the section in the video. Leave your thoughts in the comment section of this video. That's what it says. All right, let's move on. Should men pay on first dates? Well, it's a question I thought had already been answered, with the answer being a split bill in this age of equality. But apparently not. News.com.au says younger women are falling back on traditional norms and expecting men to pay. Mary Magdigan, she went to the University of Technology in Sydney, which is just around the corner from News Corp, to get some feedback on this very issue.
Do you think men should pay on the first date?
Yeah.
I think so. Yes, they should.
Yes.
Not if it's that expensive.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I believe they should. 100% yes.
I just feel like because they ask me out, they should make the effort to pay as well.
I don't know, I think it's just a kind gesture. I would feel nice about paying.
Have you ever had a girl that's insisted on paying on the first date?
No.
What would you do if they did?
Say I'm paying.
Okay.
Beat them to the card.
Have you been on dates where men haven't paid?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Not very good.
Did you go out with them again?
No.
If he asks me out and then doesn't pay, it is I'd be offended.
Do you know, that last lady, I'll cop that. If he asks me out, then possibly he should pay. But if she asked him out, theoretically, she should pay in that logic. This is really interesting to me because I genuinely thought, and look, I haven't obviously been on the dating scene, so I have no idea what they do on their Tinders and things like that. On their Tinders. God, I sounded old then. But if I was going on a date, I would assume I'd be splitting the bill, because otherwise I would appear sexist trying to pay for the meal. And I also think, why should men pay? I remember when I was at uni and I was out at a bar one night and this girl came up to me and said, "Will you buy me a drink?" And I just went, "Nah," because I thought, hang on, you don't know me from a bar of soap. You just want a drink. Robbie, don't play that game. You know, you need to do a bit more to get a drink out of me. You've got to wine me and dine me if you want a drink out of me. This is why I spent so much time single in my life. But no, I don't think men should be expected to pay. You know, it's such a confusing world. I'm glad I'm where I am in some ways, because I would just find this really hard. And the woman who said, if he doesn't pay, I won't see him again. What does that say about you? Aren't you supposed to be able to stand on your own 2 feet as an independent woman? Isn't that the whole point? Isn't that what the feminist movement of the 70s was all about? It was about equality. That's not equal. That's saying, well, we want the good parts. We want equality, except when it comes to money, because the man should pay. I don't think that's fair. But maybe we're going back to the future when it comes to Gen Z. I find them fascinating. Fascinating when it comes to their attitudes about a lot of things. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section of this video. Right at YouTube, go to youtube.com/@McKnight I think it's time for Rob's rant. Here comes McKnight tonight. All right, as I said, now it's time for this. And you know, for tonight's one, you won't need a drink, but have one anyway. Because sometimes you see something on the internet that speaks to you. And this meme by Joe Berry on TikTok is one of those things. Have a look at this. Some people will tell you that I'm the nicest man with the biggest heart. Others will tell you I'm the biggest a-hole they've ever met. Believe them both. They got the version they earned. I love that, because there are people who think I'm an a-hole, and there are people that would walk over broken glass for me. And it's all comes down to that. I give you what you give me. And I will be so loyal to people. Time and time again, I've stuck up for people in their darkest hour, much to my detriment at times, because I've gone against the narrative. But I stand by it. I know good people. And sometimes good people in their darkest hours, even when they've done something wrong, deserve a bit of loyalty. You know, when I was sacked by Channel 10, one of the first texts I got was from Larry Emder, who just sent me a text saying, it's a shit industry sometimes. And he was right. And I've never forgot that, because people like him reached out to let me know it would be okay. And it was. But there are other people who just will use and abuse everyone. And then when they're down, they expect kindness and loyalty. Not from me. You got to earn it during the good times to get it during the bad times. And I will give it to you. So if I haven't been loyal to you in your darkest times, it's because of this meme. Can we read it again, Amanda? Some people will tell you I'm the nicest man with the biggest heart. Others will tell you I'm the biggest a-hole they've ever met. Believe them both. They got the version they earned. Love that. Couldn't agree with it more. Let me know your thoughts. That has been Rob's, not so much of a rant, but Rob's reflection, maybe. Rob's reflection. So, I don't think Rob's reflection will become a thing, Manda. All right, coming up, Tony Auden will be here in a moment to talk about that amazing stand-up he did reading 7 News Queensland, where he went on a ride upside down. But I've got another topic I want to get to right after we do a random live shot of the day and your feedback. You are watching McKnight Tonight.
It's the random live shot of the day. Where are you going today? You'll never know where you'll end up with the random live shot of the day.
And our random live shot of the day is here. Tonight we're live to the southwestern island of Kyushu in Japan, where Typhoon Lingling is tracking closer by the hour. Now you can see the storm bands already moving in, heavy rain and gusty winds battering the coastline. It is ferocious there. Authorities are warning of flash flooding, mudslides and major disruptions as the typhoon pushes north. For residents of Kyushu, this is a nervous wait as the system continues its path. It's a cloudy day with the typhoon approaching, obviously. It's heading for a high of 34 degrees though, after an overnight low of just 23. Fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, it's pretty wild there. That tree looks like it'll be interesting to see if that survives. So we'll keep an eye on that throughout the night. But there is plenty of feedback coming into McKnight Tonight. So let's take a look at what you guys are saying tonight. And we've got this one from Gareth. Rob, try saying African American instead of black people. American black people. Yeah, look, as I said, Gareth, and thank you for your feedback. I don't think it's a racist term, but, you know, I actually had a feeling some people might find offense with it. Over the page we go. Own Your Crazy says, because there are people of African descent everywhere. On to the actual issue that they're talking about in that topic one. So Australians should play ball on their knees. This is talking about the Asian coach who said it was unfair because Australians have better genetics. Restoration Archive says the Asia basketballers are lucky the NBA players don't come over and want to play. That's so true. Gareth picks up on my use of the term black again and says black isn't a racist term. It's just not very professional for a TV host. Justine says the word black isn't the issue. It's the interpretation of the word that makes it an issue for some people. So it's interesting, that discussion there, and is food for thought. We've got this one from Michael who says, I don't know if genetics gives Australians an advantage. Is it our climate better to train in? Is Australia simply a more sport-obsessed country? Is it our investment in ground roots sport, which is something we do very, very well? I completely agree with that. Now, on the issue of whether a man should pay, and I still can't believe this is a thing, Gareth says the person who initiates the date pays or you split it. Easy. I agree with that. Own Your Crazy says you ask someone out. I feel that as the host for the evening, you should comp your guests. Justine says, poor Amanda, how do you put up with him? Okay, thank you. Gareth says, if Rob was going on a date, I'm sure his wife at home with the kids will make him pay. If Rob was going on a date, I'm sure his wife at home with the kids will make him pay. Vicky says, cheat Rob. Come on, Rob. Can I just say, I don't know if I should say this, I'll get in trouble. Amanda and I we weren't seeing each other, that's the thing, but I was working at Prime TV in Canberra, and my dinner break, I worked from like 1 until 11 or 2 until midnight, I can't remember. But anyway, Amanda would finish her work, and she would come to McDonald's with me, and it was sort of like our first dates were at McDonald's. I'd have what I'd call the McKnight meal, because I'd always have 2 hamburgers, a large fries, and a Coke, and that was my standard meal that we called it the McKnight. So yeah, Amanda and I started dating. So everyone who says I'm cheap, yep, guilty as charged, I suppose. Gareth says, Rob, 70s feminists are called TERFs in 2025. Keep it up. Keep up. Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, there it is. I'm going to have to take your word for that. Kyle says, Tipsy Thursday, Rob. Yes, we love a Tipsy Thursday. Janelle says, brilliant segment on Rob's reflection about loyalty. Those words are so true. Yes, we need this segment, but no crying baby. Maybe instrumental. Jeanette says, I treat everyone as they treat me. I will fully support people who support me. I have no time for people who hurt me. Okay, here we go. Restoration Archive says, McKnight tonight, put a compressor limit on your audio. Am I too loud at times? Dylan says, Japan looking quite calm and sunny, I see. Oh, hang on. Here's Gareth again. I think Gareth's on a roll with me tonight. Sharing inspirational quotes on social media is so Gen X of Rob. Just don't buy the wall art quotes they sell at Kmart. You got me there, Gareth. I will pay that. All right. We've still got a lot ahead. All right, get your wine. Have a sip. I get in trouble with... you guys need to solve an argument. Amanda always has a go at me when I have a sip on air because she's like, nobody wants to watch you having a drink. And I'm like, but it's us partaking together. But apparently not. Apparently not. All right, you are watching McKnight tonight. I want to talk to you about something. See what you think of this, and then we'll meet Tony Auden because you are watching McKnight tonight. Keep the feedback coming.
Here comes McKnight tonight.
I came across some footage from 7 News, and funnily enough, we're going to speak to Tony Auden in a moment from 7 News. But have a look at this footage of these guys who are holding a shark on the beach.
Oh my God, oh my God.
I think it's disappointing the shark didn't rip his leg off. That was completely unnecessary. Yeah, sharks can be dangerous, but when you're holding a shark there on the beach, tormenting it, what do you expect it to do? Of course it's going to try and bite you. He is so lucky it was basically just a nip. Yeah, he's got some blood, but he's still got a leg. This is this is where Darwinism comes in, doesn't it? The survival of the fittest. I might sound horrible here, but I wouldn't have been crying for him if anything had gone worse than that, because he was just being an a-hole. And, you know, sometimes in life, you get what you deserve.
It's a different take.
Oh my God, she's a Republican. She must be racist.
On the news of the day.
A kid should have the right to punch back against a bully without consequences.
Join Rob McKnight for the home internet streaming show that's very different to the rest.
My BS detector is going through the roof.
Streaming live Monday to Thursday at 9 p.m.
I am so pumped for McKnight tonight.
Subscribe now at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight.
Well, if you caught Media McKnight on Tuesday, you would have seen what I am calling the stand-up of the year. 7 News meteorologist Tony Auden presented the entire weather segment while on a ride that goes upside down. Have a look at part of his report.
Around the capital tomorrow, showers in Sydney. They'll peak late in the day, 15 degrees. Otherwise, partly cloudy and dry for Adelaide, Melbourne and Hobart. Back to northern Queensland, sunshine, 27 degrees in Townsville. Whoa. Otherwise, mostly sunny skies rather in Cairns and Mackay. In the south, widespread early frosts for inland areas, maybe just creeping east. Mostly sunny skies on the coast, a little bit of patchy cloud out west. In the southeast, also a chilly morning. We're looking at a bit of patchy cloud in the south in the afternoon and the possible shower for the Gold Coast. Suburb of the day, Redback Plains, 2 tonight, possible frost and a top of 22 degrees. Boaties, southwest winds 10 to 15 knots early. They'll turn southeast later.
Oh, that is just amazing. Tony Auden, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Thanks so much for having me, Rob.
How did you achieve this? I couldn't see any notes on you. You had your microphone, and that's all it seemed to me. Did you actually learn the whole segment off by heart?
Yes, I did. There was no auto cue up in the sky. Look, I thought this could possibly be done. Look, I only talk about one topic. It's weather, weather and more weather. The way that I attacked it was I created all the graphics. I make all my own changes. I did write a script as a backup and a way of processing it, but in my head I memorised all of the images and then ad-libbed off the icons in that process. So I think the only real stuff up I had was saying mostly sunny degrees in the tropics when we started going upside down. Apart from that, we got there. I tried not to put too many numbers in, and the ones that I did, I really made a point of remembering as well. Otherwise, we got there a bit of gaffer tape on the microphone on the hand to make sure nothing went flying off into the crowd.
Mate, it's unbelievable. I have enough problems reading the words on an auto cue right in front of me, so to remember that level of detail is amazing. It's a big risk doing something like this, though. What made you do it? Live on TV, lest we forget.
I know, nothing like live on TV. Look, I'm in the studio most nights. It's, by comparison, quite boring. I'd like to think I own the space here quite well and use the maps.
You do.
But we're at the circus. You may as well see some clowns on air. We're there, we can have fun, and we have a licence to try and get creative. So I tried to suss out. I thought, which ones can I do? The claw is actually a bigger ride, but it doesn't go upside down. And the problem with that is we have to consider the technical side of it. Does the RF on our microphone actually get back to the receiver? Does my IFB, my ear, actually get through to give me counts? Now, I did actually set a timer on my watch as a backup in case I lost those comms. Thankfully, I kept the comms all the way through, then lost them just at the end when we're off air. So we thought about that. We looked at the Joker and thought this is the right amount of upside down. It's all swinging around, but not too far away. And I considered doing a practice run beforehand. My cameraman said, no, I think we're okay in terms of the technical side of it. And the thing was, we actually had crowds there at the Ekka paying good money to go on that ride. So we didn't want to take too many spots, given we had to delay the start of that one ride by a couple of minutes to line up with on air. So that was the first time I was on the ride. I took a gamble, and thankfully this time it paid off.
Well, there's an authenticity to that. If you had rehearsed it, you don't get that natural, you know what's coming and you know what to expect, so you don't get that natural reaction.
That's right. And look, I got a bit lucky. So the extreme part of the ride is actually when they released the cages. And because we had a little bit of a delay at the start, you can see me sort of doing this, that was meant to happen at the very start. And we had 20 to 30 seconds at the beginning before it got going. That meant that the actual release of the cages where you flick forward and back was delayed until just as we finished on air. And that's when most people sort of start getting those little knocks and when it gets really wild. I probably would have been warmed up enough to get through, but it would have been more of a challenge if that had have happened 30 seconds earlier. So it was relatively easy for being 25 metres upside down.
And what's the reaction to this been like?
It's been amazing. Put it up on social media and had all kinds of positive remarks. A few people asking how on earth I did it. And I sort of explained that process of memorising the graphics. People saying, oh, that ride's easy, I could do it, which is there's always a few people that probably could do it as well. Great response online. And I think it's even contributed to me getting Reporter of the Week on the cheap seats as well. So that's a little career highlight there.
Well, that's an important thing. So, yes, you certainly deserve Reporter of the Week. But you're also a qualified meteorologist. Do you think it's an important attribute for weather presenting? Because there are a lot of people who literally just present the weather.
For me, absolutely, and I know a bunch of great reporters that do a great job with the weather as well, but for me, when the big events hit, especially here in Queensland, I don't know how I'd do it without that background knowledge. So I'm regularly ad-libbing, or at least having dot points in studio here, because things are changing so quickly, and we do even have some showers and storms across southeast Queensland today. So rather than scripting it and changing that script every 5 minutes, I'll just put a dot point, storms, do we have any warnings, and I can talk for 15, 20, 30 seconds on that. Well, I could talk for 5 minutes, but given the time restriction, I try to pace it out, get the timing in my ear. So having that background knowledge, and say during events like Cyclone Alfred, thankfully I've had 10 years at the Bureau, and look, the meteorologists there are great, but the products that they put out are restricted in terms of some of the rules they have and the systems they have. So we found, especially during Cyclone Alfred, we were able to stay a good step or two ahead of those warnings, which was really, really handy, both in terms of the risk increasing, but also when the threat was dropping. Say around Lismore and northern New South Wales, we had evacuations. A day later, all the warnings were still out, but I'm looking at the maps thinking that we're probably not going to see too much flooding here. So while people aren't home, they can be more confident that their home will still be there when they get back.
This is a really important point, and I have a lot of issues with the rules and limitations the Bureau live by, because I don't think they're as up to the minute as you are. And I think that's a bad thing. Great for 7 News that they've got you and you can be ahead of the game. But I actually think it's bad from the Bureau's point of view. What's your thoughts on that?
Look, I've worked at the Bureau. I know the nature of the systems, and those rules are there in place for a reason. They do overall provide a great product, and I know a lot of classes and they're great. Within reason, I think it's a pretty good product, but the thing is, I can be looking at information on my phone 5 seconds before on air. The nature of the daily forecast cycle is that some of the information going into the official icons and official numbers could be 12 to 24 hours old. It needs to be processed in a grid that can then feed into your app anywhere in Australia. So they go through all these processes to provide information over a huge area, but sometimes you lose a little bit of detail and the timeliness, and that's where I can come in, thankfully.
Yes, thankfully. Well, speaking of that, while I've got you, it would be remiss of me not to ask you about this. The Courier Mail described it as a monster weather system. We're experiencing at the moment here on the Gold Coast where I am. There was big rainfalls last night. What did we see today, and what can we expect over the next few days?
Okay, well, I might bring you around to the other camera here, and I'll assume my normal position for the weather maps here. I don't know if I'd call it a monster weather system, but it is pretty big. It spans well over 1,000 kilometres from southern Queensland all the way down along New South Wales coast. We've seen patchy rain and storms in the southeast today, falls up around 70 to 80 millimetres for parts of the coast. Some minor creek rises, but not much in terms of flooding. There is still a bit of a risk of some bigger storms, I guess, through the next few hours to this evening while you're enjoying your little tipple, I suppose. And then it's likely to clear up offshore. We've also had some concerns about some bigger flooding down south. Parts of northern New South Wales have seen some decent river rises, and Sydney is now in one of its top 5 wettest Augusts on record. Depending on what they get over the next few hours, they could potentially challenge the all-time August record there, but I think they'll fall just short. Onto this forecast chart, we'll see this trough system gradually moving off the coast overnight and tomorrow. So a few more storms in the southeast, a bit more rain for New South Wales. Clearing out quickly tomorrow, maybe a lingering sprinkle, and look, probably mostly sunny skies by Saturday. And I've had a few nervous brides actually ask me about their wedding days, and I've set them mostly at ease for that. One thing to consider though, I always like to do a bit of a long-term context here, is the Bureau's 3-month outlook for spring. And you can see a lot of blue on the map here for that rainfall. We're expecting wetter than average conditions overall through spring. Quite an active storm season, and I guess this does raise concerns that if we have plenty of rain and storms in spring, then there is a concern that flooding could get going quicker into summer. Whatever rain falls is likely to spread into the rivers a bit quicker. So something to be wary of there. It's looking like quite a wet signal for eastern parts of the country.
Thank you, mate. Now, you pulled me up on monster weather event. What do you think about? I even had a super saying it. What do you think about terms like that and weather bomb?
I'm not too keen on them. That can go in the same bin as mini tornado as well. It's either a tornado or not. Look, rain bomb. People understand what it is. It's not a technical term, but we can come up with new terms over time. I don't use it myself. I prefer us not to use it too much because it's not a recognised term, but obviously it's come into the vernacular. Monster system, hey, we can use that in the right situation, but this one probably doesn't really get to that level. It's unseasonal, it's nuisance rain. We're probably not really seeing all that much flooding. So is it really a monster system?
Yeah, good point. That's why I'll come to you instead of the Courier Mail. Tony Auden, it was a brilliant live cross. And on a Tipsy Thursday, cheers to you because it was a great piece of television. Thanks for joining us on McKnight Tonight.
Thanks so much. And I don't know where I can go next year for the Echo.
We'll come up with something, my friend. We'll come up with something. Cheers again.
We will indeed.
Well, there you go. Big thanks to the guys at Channel 7, the crew, the guys and girls who made that happen and gave us 2 cameras. How good was that? A 2-camera weather report. They don't even have that on the news. All right, let's get to your feedback that is coming through to McKnight Tonight. It's Tipsy Thursday. Have a sip of wine is a must or a bottle, says Dylan in response to me saying, Amanda doesn't approve of me drinking on air because she thinks people don't want to see that. Jeanette says, in regards to the guy with the shark, sorry, what an idiot. Restoration Archive says, play around with dangerous animals. FAFO. I'm so old, I don't know what FAFO means. Do you? I don't know what it means. Someone will send in a text. All right, Janelle says, I wouldn't torment a blue bottle, let alone a shark. Leave the sea life alone, dudes. Absolutely right. Dylan says, at least that shark is alive, unlike our poor marine life here in Adelaide, thanks to the algae bloom. That has been a big issue in Adelaide, a big issue. Yeah, so let's hope everything's all right. Restoration Archive, considering you didn't have an auto cue, he did really well. This is in regards to Tony Auden doing the upside down cross on the ride. Yeah, I thought he did a great job. Dylan says that was a great segment and he did so well considering the circumstances. Dylan also says, don't think the 7 Adelaide weather presenter Amelia will do that when the Royal Adelaide show starts here next weekend. Well, she's going to have to up her game and give it a go, isn't she? She will have to we'll put the challenge out, Amelia. You have to get in there and do something bigger than Tony Auden. There you go. The challenge is set. All right, Restoration Archive says, you've got to do this stuff. We did an underwater broadcast from a shipwreck on the sunny coast. It was a world first. That sounds very cool. It's the kind of thinking I really like. Well done. Over the page we go, and Own Your Crazy says, yes, people, the weather in Brisbane is on fire. And then Own Your Own Crazy says, Rob could talk under wet cement. Restoration Archive says, with a mouthful of marbles. Dylan says, or orange snakes. Dylan says, speaking of what happened to the jar of snakes. They're still here. They've got 2 left. And I think these are the new ones because Amanda mixed some old ones, some new ones with the tasty ones. I'm not allowed to eat on it. Oh, it's those new ones. Oh, I hate it. It's like people say there's no difference between Coke and Pepsi. Yes, there is. If I ever took that Pepsi challenge, I would be going for the Coke. I know the Coke. I like the Coke. Anyway. So, going off on a whole other tangent. Jimmy says, a weather report on McKnight Tonight. Nice touch. I know. Talk about pushing my luck. Dylan says, we now get weather reports on McKnight Tonight. Dylan says, don't forget us people not on the East Coast. Yeah, fair point. But I obviously planned with him ahead of time because he did up a map for us and everything. But it was just about that wet weather event or the monster event that we're not allowed to call a monster event. But that's what that was in regards to. So which isn't happening on the west. Well, as far as I could tell. Jeanette says it's going to be wet, wet, wet. So true. Restoration Archive says, Rob just channeling Carl Sanderlands talking about Coke. TV Buff. Thank you. Hello, TV Buff. FAFO. F around and find out. Okay. I like this one from Michael. This just in, expecting it to be fine with a chance of tipsy. Oh, Michael, you've hit the nail on the head. Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of McKnight Tonight. Thank you for another great week, guys. You know we love it. We love your support. Help us get the message out. I will be back on Monday at 9 o'clock as we continue our McKnight Tonight sessions, and hopefully you can join us. And if you're got an app or you're in Brisbane, I will be on ABC on Saturday morning just after 9 o'clock talking about hot topics if you want to join me then. And don't forget to look out for Booty and the Beast. And if you're on YouTube, it's Booty the Beasts. That's the channel name you've got to look out for. But apparently the video feed's now going to all the podcasts, so you should be able to watch it. That's what I've been told. My mum just said back to the footy. Oh, well, maybe that means she was watching for 5 minutes. All right. Thanks for your company. We'll see you next week. For now, though, and next week, Reggie's joining us because this weekend they're doing part 2 of her season of Big Brother. She's going to join us to talk about it on Monday. That's the plan anyway. We'll see what happens. All right. That's enough from me. It's good night from McKnight. See you next week.
It's good night.